Joining me from Britain is commentator and columnist Esther Krakue. Esther, always great to see you. Audience favourite you are. Idris Elba's words, what did you make of them when we're all under such pressure now to define ourselves by race, particularly, of course, if you are black?
Well, I was very grateful that he stated the obvious, and he stated the point that we've been trying to make for basically decades, that your race is just the color of your skin and that it shouldn't define you. I would like to point out that it's someone of his status and his recognition that can say something like this. I feel like a black actor saying something like this at the beginning of his career would absolutely not have a future in the industry, because many people read it as he was being anti-black, but he was making the point that he is black, he is proud to be black, but the point is his race is just the color of his skin, and it shouldn't have to invade aspects of his life, like his career, for instance. I make the point that why would someone say I'm a gay nurse? What does being gay have to do with being a nurse, right? But we make identity politics so important and so central to our lives that him saying something like this really rattled people that wanted him to toe a different line. And I think that's quite sad and disappointing, but I'm glad that he stated this fact because it's the truth. I also need to make the point that, if you put yourself in the box as a black actor, then the only roles you can get are roles suited to black actors, right? And that, again, that is detrimental to any sort of progress, regardless of what the perspective you take on various racial issues, because why would you want to put yourself in a box like that?
Well, particularly when his name has been touted as a new James Bond, which would be a very interesting choice. I just wonder, because you sounded, you raised, well, people are surprised to hear him say it. I reckon it might be something to do with having been born British, of African parents, rather than being born in America to African American ones. Do you think that's got something to do with it? It's like the British culture somehow maybe in play there?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, this is why I've always been critical of not imposing sort of American conceptualization of race onto sort of British black identity or even African identity, because they're completely different things. I often make the point that I grew up in Ghana. The conceptualization of my race being kind of my front and center identity sticking point would just never occur to me. I never grew up with seeing the world through that lens. And I actually see that with many Black Britons as well, just because, it's a completely different context and societal sort of conceptualization of race. So of course, this is kind of the conceptualization he has of this concept, because it's more to do with the fact that you are an individual first before your race, as opposed to in the US, for instance, where group identity seems to take precedence over individual identity. And I also make the point that a lot of the people that were very angry about it were Black Americans. So that should tell you something about the debate.
There you go. There you go. Snap. Just quickly, still in America, this race push is getting so very serious, Esther. I mean, today's Superbowl, America's biggest and most revered sports event, started with not just one national anthem, but two. Now, a white man sang the Star-Spangled Banner, the official national anthem. A black woman sang what's known as the unofficial black national anthem, Lift Every Voice. Here she is.
Lift every voice I see, till earth and heaven.
Esther, when I see this kind of separatism, separating nationally in two national anthems, this can't end well.
Yes, I mean, obviously, I think it's important to point out that this particular song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, is being sung as more of a political statement. So I've often drawn parallels with, Delilah being sung by Welsh rugby fans, or Swing Low, Sweet Chariot being sung by English fans. And they're unofficial anthems, for instance, but they do have a connection with the fan base. And people were arguing that this particular song that was sung at the Super Bowl has a kind of connection with black fans, for instance. The problem does come when it's sung as an unofficial black anthem, because then that begs the question, well, can white people sing it? What place does something like that have in the United States of America, which is effectively a melting pot, or the fact that American society has progressed so far that it's no longer a white versus black society like in the 1940s and 50s, but it really is a melting pot of Hispanic Americans who seem to get lost in this entire debate of race completely, Asian Americans, for instance, African Americans who are of direct African origin, or African Americans who predated Black Africans in America, for instance. So that is where the issue is, and it's clearly, you know, caused more division. This is the third year in a row that they've sung it, and the people that are singing it are making it clear that they're singing it to highlight racial divisions. But then that also begs the question: shouldn't the Super Bowl just be about sports? You know, should it be about, you know, racial politics or anything politics related at all? Can't football fans just watch football without having to have any sort of politics shoved down their throats? That's another question that's very valid as well.
Spot on. Yeah, third time in a row sung, so clearly it's got something, but the first time it was sung live, so it had an extra sting to it, meaning to it this time. Esther Krakue, thank you so much indeed for your time.